we're next going to have the guest that Jody does that knows a lot about the child situation where they take the children away from the families, and he's going to tell us about his experience. And I'm going to let Jody conduct the narrative basically and address it.
What is this
Go ahead, Jody, tell us about what Carrie does.
This is different from what you did too?
Yeah, it's different. He specializes basically in it. And Jody's gone through this situation where kids were taken away, but the government's actually paying money to take the kids away from families. I haven't been affected by it, but Jody has, and so has Carrie.
All the problems are coming from Congress.
Yep.
It's exactly where they're coming from.
I'll blow them next
Well,
round.
if it's like a phone, it's great.
Have you got it plugged in?
I'll blow them next round.
Go ahead.
Just sneak the head down.
You're a dial into them, so. Are you on this?
Yeah, that was called
Can you use your hotspot again? You're on right now.
Aaron, is that your Chromebook?
Is that
Is that your Chromebook?
That's yours.
Oh, yeah.
Might swing it down, watch out.
Mine's always wanted to upgrade.
I hate it.
You hate it?
Yeah, don't ever get one.
I Is yours always wanting to upgrade? Like the system, the operating system?
Yep.
Why is that? To put the next
How
spines?
come it's
Video you
wrong?
want to watch?
Yeah.
Okay, my hotspot is on, so it'll take a minute for your
Maybe it'll work
computer.
for kids, because it's their internet here will want us to watch that. Because it's speed. Why don't you go back here to it, and then get on his hotspot,
How do I do that?
go to connections.
Little
I hope he's
Wi-Fi,
not
there you
video
go.
now.
Okay, click on
What do I got?
that. Okay,
And then what's yours called?
Verizon.
Here. And he's gonna give you tone. He's probably already in there if you used it before. You're on.
yeah, those things remember everything.
Now try it. Let me see if
But maybe
the manager, set it up.
What would the manager have to do with it using my Wi-Fi?
Never mind. I don't think it's gonna let me if I'm in Facebook
Could be.
jail. I can use a messenger, that's all I'm gonna call. But if this was a Facebook video, see how it says Facebook?
Could be your Facebook.
Are you blocked?
Oh yeah, I'm in jail, Zuckerberg jail. Okay, so let me go to something else first that I know is you need to. Because this was my question posed to the Attorney General of Texas. I kind of wanted you guys to see something. This is real short.
My name is Jeff Morgan. I'm from Dallas.
Not really long. I do want him to show up someday. Okay.
We'll continue to push to improve
How do I
that.
back this up? Anyone know?
What's that?
How do I rewind this?
Grab that thing and pull it to the left.
I don't know.
There you go. Come on, Jody, you know these things. Kim Paxton. He's a real champ.
Okay, are you gonna record?
It's recording.
Oh, I hope you edit that.
I do.
Alright. So I'm gonna play this because he wants me to play one of the other videos and it won't work until he gets on here. Alright,
So Jody,
so,
everything's working okay now?
yeah, I'm just gonna play their video.
Okay.
It's real short, you guys. I want you to watch this first. So this video you're gonna see is the Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. This was a couple years ago. And I went to what was called a Tea Party meeting back then. There was about 200 people in the room. This was over in North Richland Hills, Texas. So he's admitting it, bragging about the Title IV funding that everyone here, if you're working, you're paying for the child trafficking. So when he's telling you about the money that's matched from child support, this is through Federal Social Security Act 458. If you can Google that, so if you're paying in, Social Security's coming out of your check, you're helping fund this, whether it's child support. He's only going to be talking about Title IV-D, I believe, at this time. He might be talking about, I can't remember. He might be talking about E. But Kerry Speedman's going to talk today, and he lives in Illinois, and he knows all about every Title IV. So there's A, B, D, E, and X. But this is Ken Paxton bragging about this. So I just want you to hear, it's pretty short. And then I'll get Kerry on the phone.
Anybody know how many employees from the Attorney General's office? Any guess? 4,200 people in over 100 offices. 62% of that, approximately, is child support. So that's a big part of what we did. I'll talk about that in a minute. But I talked about child support, what a big part it is for us. Texas obviously cares about collecting child support for the custodial parent. And some of that is we certainly want to take care of our children. We also want to make sure that people don't need government assistance as a result of parents not taking care of their kids. And so it's a big effort. We have almost 1 million clients that we deal with a year. Texas is particularly good at it. We collected over $4 billion last year. The closest state, well, just to give you an example, California, which is much larger than us, they collected $2.3 billion. And for every dollar that we spend on child support collections, we collect about $12.27. The closest to us is South Dakota, and they collect about $10.50. California collects about $2.50. So we try to continue to increase that efficiency because it results in what we think is good public policy, helping children, and also saving the state a lot of money. We'll continue to push to improve that.
Okay, on the grandparents page, I assume this is on your website, you mentioned grandparents play an important role in their grandchildren's lives. Yet in Texas, grandparents' visitation rights and grandchildren's rights to see the grandparents they love are virtually non-existent. What legislative recommendation can you suggest, and what actions can you take to help secure these rights?
Well, that is obviously a legislative issue. It's very tricky. You've got the balance between the parents who are fundamentally responsible for taking care of their children, and then you have some interest in grandparents. I don't know exactly what the right answer is. I know that we always wanted our grandparents around, or my parents and her parents, but that is a policy issue that has to be, if it's going to be addressed, has to be addressed by the legislature. My office would not really have any say other than if they look to us to provide help on drafting it in a way that would work and make sure that it was constitutional.
Okay, here's a two-for related question. What percentage of our state government comes from the federal government and state budget, I'm sorry. And can we live without it? And then as a follow-on, how much money does your agency receive in Title D dollars for forcing parents that lost kids due to corruption by courts? I
Okay.
think that might be medical.
The answer is we get a lot of money from the program. I don't know the exact percentage, but obviously it's a large amount of money. And obviously there's a lot of strings attached to it. My office, a lot of our child support money, 2/3 of our child support money comes from the program. So, we're dealing with that on a constant basis. They have their own rules that you have to follow to get the money, but those have been in place for a long time. Whether you would want to walk away from, I don't know what percentage, 30-40% of our budget coming from the program, I'm guessing, it's a lot.
Tarrant County has the highest rate of child abuse, I did not know this, in the state. When will the family court here be audited? And then the follow-on, can anything be done to hold people with impunity accountable for dishonesty?
So we don't do the audits, and that would be a legislative function. If there's something more that needs to be done to hold people accountable, that would go through the legislature. A lot of times, people want my office to do things that we don't have the authority to do. And I spent a lot of my career fighting government that is doing things that they're not supposed to do under their own authority. And so we have to stay away from doing things that are policy related or things that other branches of government are supposed to do. My job is to follow my authority. And a lot of times people want me to do things that other branches of government, and one of those things is I can't change the law. That's the legislature. I can help them, give them guidance, but it's up to them to change the law.
If you're concerned with child trafficking, which obviously you are, do you consider parental kidnapping a part of this? And if so, why are fathers not prosecuted?
That's a complicated question that depends on the family situation, whether obviously divorce affects relationships, and that ends up being covered by, consent decrees and orders that are negotiated among the parties or ordered by the judge. That one's hard to answer because I don't really know what situation is being addressed here. One of the challenges we have in my office is we don't have a lot of original jurisdiction in any kind of criminal case. So we're mostly a civil law firm. We deal with criminal cases when we get referred those cases by DAs. Unless it's an election fraud issue, the DAs have been very guarded about transferring any of their power or even giving current jurisdiction. And so one of the frustrations, this is particularly true in South Texas. Some of my friends in South Texas legislators complain about the corruption. Because the local DAs are sometimes involved, and so they won't pursue because they should pursue because they're also elected by them. And so the DA's Association has guarded that. It would be nice to have some concurrent jurisdiction in the AG's office to go after it if, say, a DA won't. And this is one of those cases, there may be corruption, or maybe a lot of corruption, we may know it. And the DA may know it. The DA can ignore it, and there's no accountability for that. There's no one overseeing DAs. They have absolute control over what gets prosecuted. And if they actually prosecute somebody illegally, there's very little that you can do because once they get the indictment, I know this from my own case, once they get the indictment, they could have lied to the grand jury. You won't know it because it's all secret. That's designed to protect the innocent, supposedly. But there's no recording of it necessarily. You don't get to defend yourself. They can lie, and once they get the indictment, you're stuck. And so there's a lot of power in DAs that I think deserve some check, at least some other accountability, but we don't have it in Texas, and the DAs have argued hard and long that they should not have that accountability.
So, yeah, Sharon Wilson, for everyone that's on here watching, I sent Freedom of Information Act to the RDA. She does not prosecute custodial interference, which is Texas Code 2503. When I got my FOIA back, it was for several years. I asked for 7. I believe there were 6 or 7 she's prosecuted for custodial interference. 6 or 7 people. But there's over 25 million of us, like myself, like Carrie that's going to speak, like Julie, you've heard in the UK. But, here in the U.S., there's over 25 million of us. And this has not been prosecuted when someone kidnaps your child or withholds them, which is custodial interference. So she does need some check, right? So, okay, let me get
I recommend 45 California.
Carrie? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, okay, good. All right, there's several people in here, and so where do you want to begin? Can you first tell them about, I guess you can tell them about yourself, what you do, but let's focus on the Title IV first, and then we'll talk about your racing. Okay?
Okay. You know,
Like the amount, the different types, and just a short, you know, kind of brief thing about each one. Okay?
okay. Start out, so Title 4A, there's a Title 4B, the Title 4D, the Title 4E as well. Title 4A involves, there's block grants set aside, what they call temporary assistance for needy families. It's a grant that's available to pretty much illegal aliens as well as citizens in the United States. All of these encompass or are played out in our family court system, and that's what they use and intermingle amongst our cases for maximum profits. Title 4B is a Title 4B and E are also the same. They're one and the same. They're part of the what was passed under what they call the Adoption and Safe Families Act. If you go to, it was around 97, I believe, that was passed. That actually is money granted that would, we've seen a lot of forced adoptions over the years, a lot of placement into foster care homes and so forth. They, at the time, there was involved, once they had set that up in the court systems, if you go back to Title 4D, that is the, what they call the Bradley Amendment, or the Deadbeat Dads Act. It was also nicknamed when it came out. Senator Bradley at the time, Bill Bradley, was a basketball star, and he got this harebrained idea that that was kind of the starting point in the family court system around the early 90s. That was one of the first Title IV sections that was implemented into the family court system, which was Title 4D, or they also call it child support, or most people know it as child support enforcement. But what it did was place an unexpirable lien on retroactive child support in amongst the system. In other words, you aren't forgiven for any arrearage, they call it, or back support, and it just compounds in interest all the time. That's why you see a lot of these fathers out here over the years that have actually physically ran on a child support orders, and a lot of them are false or fake, or a lot of people say that the system is not, you can't get justice or law in a family court because it's a monetary court or a money court. So a lot of people will understand or see them as a fake court. It's not actually a real court system. But that's kind of the gist of it. They use and manipulate these laws. Like I said, the Title 4A, the Title 4B, the Title 4D, and the Title 4E. They mix and mingle those amongst our cases. When we're going to court, you will see them step in at different points a lot of times in your case if you followed it really thoroughly, as I know you have, Jody, over the years. But they will mix and mingle all these Title IVs amongst our cases in some way, shape, or form. Whether it's sending us to a visitation center, as I had been sent to, where I had to pay $25 an hour, you know, that's just another entity of the Title IV fraud. It's just another way for them to make money off of that Title IV money scheme.
I also think that in people that haven't been divorced yet, they have what's called children in the middle in some states. They call it different numbers. It's in every state, but it's called something different. Like where Cary is, it might be called children in the middle. Down here, it might be called something else. But you're mandated to take it if you go through a divorce, or even if your child's kidnapped or withheld from you, like mine and Cary's, and you go back into court, you are mandated to take that class again. So that would be coming out of these funds as well, I believe. And then you got to pay for it on top of that.
Yeah, they come out. See, the child support system, the way it's set up, they get $15 to as high as $15 to every $1 that they can lie and say that you owe in back support or arrearage. That is kind of where it topped off in 2016 when Obama was in office still. It was right around $15 in some states to every $1 that they could say you owed in child support. So I seen it play out in my case where it took them a year and 15 days when I motioned at court to lower my child support. It took them a year and 15 days to lower that to because of a job loss and a business loss and a major financial changes. But it took them a year and 15 days to physically lower that. So, and that was, at one point it was set at, I'm talking about lowering it from $700 and something a month down to $80 a month. But they still would not take and completely lower it. You know, they would not take it, the order and just put it on a zero because I was unemployed at the time. So,
tell
I
them,
mean, that's,
tell them about also how they'll, and this is women too, y'all. He's saying men, the deadbeat dads, that's how it started, but women are paying this as well. Whoever's non-custodial.
oh yeah.
So if you have your child 49% of the time instead of 50, you're gonna pay child support. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what
Yes, they do. Yeah.
And then these
Women
funds,
are directly affected the same way. It's gotten. It was initially the fathers were the ones they focused on because the family unit was at one time a mother, a father, and the children, or a grandparent or something like that might also be staying with the parents at the time. But they worked that system for a long. They tested this system out on the black population back in the 60s and early 50s, early 60s, and throughout the 60s to see if it would work out, or how it would work. Subsequently, they passed this down to the general population, and they've been pretty successful at it for a long time. But yes, it affects. We have a couple members here, Carrie Adams, who was a long-time mother that was, she's kind of aged, what we call aged out of the system. But her kids were taken from her, and we see it kind of in a predominance in the female. It tends to play out that if the ex, the male in that case would get a jump on the system, get the attorney quickly, a lot of times they will. That tends to be the factor in a lot of these, but we see a lot of males that have a predominant position. Carrie Adams' ex-husband was a firefighter in the south suburbs of Chicago, and she came down with MS and was basically kind of ousted out of the home. He started seeing the one of the caretakers, the husband did, and did his part to try to get Carrie out of the home, and and push her out of the home. That's the ultimate goal, generally, is to get, and get child support locked in, or you know, any kind of additional funding that comes from Title IV. There is, like I mentioned, the temporary assistance for needy families. That pays out one party if they can say that they're, you know, they're the sole income maker for that household, and they got, you know, several kids in that household. They can get up to $2,500 a month in temporary assistance for needy families.
So let me stop you right there, because I gotta tell him this real quick. So that's TANF, TANF is what he's talking about. But say you're, and I know you guys aren't gonna go through this, but you might know someone that is, okay? If you are a parent and you're struggling, you need some funds, and whoever's paying child support isn't paying it, you can call over there and say, I need some help, I need some of this funding, this TANF, okay? The caveat is, if you take it, and then the ex, whoever that is, female, male, whatever, pays the child support, you're not getting that. The state gets that. So like in my case, that would have been a huge problem because the TANF is much less. So I said, well, if I do the TANF, because he won't pay, certain months he wouldn't pay. If it was close to Christmas, he wanted to make sure my kids couldn't get Christmas gifts. So he'd make sure not to pay, so I had to struggle, and I had to go donate plasma to get some funds just to put a gift under the tree, right? So if I called, which I did, can I get some help? They said, yeah, but his child support is X amount. You're getting this much for TANF, which was at the time $500 a month for TANF. Well, my child support was quite a bit more, not enough really to, I couldn't do anything, but I mean, it's only for, I just use it for rent, whatever. But they would get that additional. So it doesn't matter, say you're getting $2,000, which I wasn't, but say you're getting $2,000 a month, you're only gonna get the $500, the state gets the other.
Yeah, the state is, in a lot of these, the state makes probably more than you make, or you would get, I shouldn't say make, than you would get for whatever assistance that they're giving you. That's why these social programs just blew out of the water, because they were, but the main purpose was for the government to get paid, literally. I know in that, like I mentioned, the Title 4D with the child supports, the government makes $15 to every $1 that can literally lie and say that you owe in back support. So they literally are taking $15 in that Title 4D funding in regard to your case for every $1. That's why they let that build up so high. They let my year arrearage go for a year and 15 days before they literally, there's a threshold or someplace that you have to have so much money showing that you're behind before they can kick in the full funding. And that goes for the TANS funds, that goes for the adoption and safe family stuff with the forced adoptions, or the any kind of funding coming from them. That you can bet that they're making at least double off of what. That's why it incentivizes. They always say the courts are incentivized to tear your family apart, and that's literally a fact. They're literally, they're paid, they're looking at those Title IV funds, and all of those decisions are made based on what they can get from your on your behalf through your Title IV funding. So,
and then the CPS is E. So for every child, there's so much money. You know about that one, right?
Title IV B and E are the adoption and safe families. They were passed at the same time. That involves the forced adoptions, the temporary placements that they've done for a long time, putting children into opting out of good homes, you know, putting them into what do they call those?
Like foster.
Yeah, foster homes. That's the word I was looking for.
So
But
tell them how,
that's-
tell them how Clinton's involved with that, and then tell them what Trump did. Can you do that?
Yeah, well, that's kind of where the Clintons passed, all of these Title IVs passed under the Clintons' time in office when they were elected. The A, the B, the D, and the E.
And then this funding went into their Clinton Foundation. Right?
What's that now?
That funding went into their Clinton Foundation.
Well, they've been putting that money into the Clinton Foundation over the years, but they passed all these Title IVs in the 90s, and with the help of George Soros, really. It's hard to explain that into things, but George Soros is a multi-billionaire. He owns everything there is in China. He owns every factory and just about all of these big, huge shipping containers that we see being shipped all over the place. And ultimately, this has all been tied. All of our fights in the family courts, the forced adoptions, a lot of these kids that were being adopted out over the years forcefully, they were actually physically disappearing into the system. They were being forced adopted, and they may disappear into the system. And all of this stuff was coming around last year, and all the child trafficking bust. This had played a big part in that over the years. If these children would be placed into forced adoptions and disappearing into the family court systems all across the country. I knew about this type of stuff when I was thrown into this early on back in the mid-90s. I knew that I was hearing rumors and people coming out and saying that they were their kids, they can't find their children after they were being adopted out or put into a foster home. And it was kind of a known thing that these kids were ended up on Epstein Island or into the underground trafficking that was going on across our whole nation here for the last
Like in the
30 years.
They're probably down in the dumbs. Yeah. Okay, now do tell them about the Buchanan bill, because there's a lot of, they're all conservative in here, so.
Yeah.
Tell them about what Trump did.
Trump passed what they call the Buchanan bill. A lot of people, to the untrained eye, it didn't look like he was doing anything for our family court fight, but knowing that this was completely tied to this child trafficking industry that they built over 30 years, as soon as that was passed, February 2018, we all know that we started seeing the fake Russian collusion, the fake impeachment, and then shortly after that, the fake pandemic. It's all of that was tied to that, and we could see, because it literally, that Buchanan bill cut $35 billion from the once unlimited, unregulated Department of Human Services budget. And when that happened, that's when we immediately seen, they wanted to bring the hammer down on him. They wanted to get him out of there. He was taking money from the big cats, the Clintons. The Clinton Foundation, ironically, at the same time, they seen a $35 billion exact same amount decrease in donations to their foundation. So what's that tell you? The Clintons have been funneling that money into that and the Arkansas governor or Arkansas senator, the woman that was mysteriously found she had killed herself or shot herself with a unloaded pistol or whatever the story played out to be. But like Nancy Schaefer, she called them out on it. She found the information out where they were actually funneling this money back into all of this Title IV money was going back into the Clinton Foundation as a donation into the Clinton Foundation. So
are you familiar with Nancy Schaefer at all? That he's talking
Well,
about?
certainly.
I know her face.
I asked him if they were familiar with her, but.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
Yeah,
Georgia?
She
Yeah.
lived in southern Arkansas.
Was she in Arkansas?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, she was an Arkansas senator, I believe, at the time.
And
But,
she
Yeah,
suicided.
she was.
They got suicided.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Her husband, I think her
Yeah,
husband
sometimes-
too. Wasn't it her husband as well?
I don't think so. I think they only knocked her off that time. But Nancy Schaefer's husband was killed at the same time. For many of you that don't know what Nancy Schaefer was an early whistleblower in the family court system, and she was one of the first people to reveal all the crime and corruption that was going on within the family courts and how the whole system worked. I learned a lot of this from her back in the day, but I also learned a lot through other mishaps, such as the Arkansas senator, as well as Carol Rhodes, which was a early whistleblower in Michigan. She told about how they intermingled Title IV A, B, D, and E. She was what they called a friend of the court in Michigan. It's like in some states they call them a guardian ad litem, but they were literally schooled on, hey, this week we need to make more money. We got a budget a set amount of money we have to generate. Everybody get busy, start, pulling these kids out of their homes in Michigan. And, she told about how they did that there, how they physically were. I sent Jody a video yesterday. You might be able to watch. Everybody could partake in, but she told about how the corruption in the family court system and how she literally was one of the workers. She was blowing it up and telling how they would go in and this innocent family. They might have a low income. They might be poor. They might not have money and to buy groceries or something that week. But these type of people were targeted. They were targeted for their children. But it's really and truly it's kind of similar to what the old mafia was back here in Chicago back in the day. It's extortion, a lot of extortion involved, a lot of money laundering. They just perfected this system and pushed it into using our families to make a lot of money. Billions of dollars. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry.
So what do you say, Carrie, about, because everyone in here is concerned about the jab, do you think the kids that are being taken out, and I believe they're going to come get them from unvaccinated people, so people need to not answer the door to these, but do you believe they're going to be giving these kids the jab without parental consent once they grab them?
I'm worried about that with adults as well, Jody. I don't think it's just children. I had my sister went in yesterday for some injections in her neck, and I told her, I said, you make sure you don't get that jab. And she don't want to either, but it's part of me thinks that they're going to do it whether they get your consent or not. Even it's because a lot of when the shutdown happened in Illinois, especially when the shutdowns happened last year during the whole pandemic, they literally were, they were making, it's not a rumor, it's a fact. They were making $7,000 for a diagnosis in Illinois, and they were making $28,000 plus for a diagnosis plus proof that you used a ventilator. So my good lifelong friend Ed Grabo, his mother passed away in March of 2020. They put on her death certificate that she died with coronavirus, did not have a trace of it, did not test positive for it, nothing. When he went to get the paperwork, they barely got into the hospital to get to read her last rites. If we wouldn't have had a mutual friend that's a RN working on the floor that evening, they're a Catholic, big Catholic family, but they wouldn't have been able to read her last rites or the priest bless her, after she passed. But she died literally of this is the kicker in this all, is she died literally of a heart attack in a hospital affiliated with Loyola University, or Loyola in Chicago, which is the nation's leading teaching hospital for heart operations. They were the ones that spearheaded this and were cutting edge of all these open hearts back in the day. They were the first ones to do that. So that really makes you go, when you hear that type of stuff going on around you. And then shortly after his mother passed, he goes back in to get the birth certificate, and it says on the birth certificate that she died from coronavirus.
Oh, the death certificate.
He said, yes, death certificate, I was saying birth certificate. But on the death certificate, it says she died from coronavirus. And he asked the nurse, why did you put this on here? She died from a heart attack. She didn't test positive or nothing. And the nurse said, well, you can change that at any time, sir. It's no big deal. You can change it at any time. And he said, well, why should I have to? Why should I have to change that?
All right, so
I have several nurse friends in the Chicago area. That's where I grew up. But I have several friends that their wives are lead RNs in many of the South suburban hospitals here affiliated with Rush or Loyola in Chicago, and they were being told at that time to do not resuscitate anybody that's coding. Do not resuscitate. So it's no joke. This has been their ultimate goal was to get the federal funding that they were getting from, that was allotted for these hospitals
Do they get?
for emergency purposes. But
hang on, Gary, I got a question.
When someone dies at a hospital, does the hospital get the entire amount of money, or does the state or federal government get part of it too? Of COVID.
the code funds was coming by the boatloads. They were literally getting a lot of all of this funding in at that time, because of President Trump. He put all this funding aside for victims, of COVID. But
Do you think it's going to the hospital completely, or to the state, or
Does the doctor get some too?
does the doctor get a piece, or have you heard?
I'm sure there are all layers in that. Like we see the family court system, they're all playing a little part. I wouldn't doubt that they're all getting some of that. It's like a cookie jar, They're all got their hands into it. But I wouldn't doubt, that I didn't really hear that. I heard from several of my good friends that about the coded, if they were coded to not resuscitate. So their wives were lead RNs in the suburban Chicago hospitals here, and they confirmed that with me, that they were being brought in their meetings and telling them to. I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that they was tied to the fact that they were isolating these people and not letting you into the hospitals away.
Right, they didn't want
I
the
had a
family
friend on-
members there, so they couldn't observe what was going on.
At nursing homes as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. If there's nobody there to witness it, it's gonna say this isn't good, you're gonna keep getting away with that type of stuff, you know?
So,
But,
tell them, what that code is, the Federal Social Security Act, you know, like that, and then what people can do. Like, some people wanna know, what can we do about this funding? What do you think they could do?
mhm.
It's federal, I mean, for you guys to write, if you're writing notes, it's Federal Social Security Act 458. So you can Google that.
It's Title IV of the Social Security Act. It's a title and then the Roman numerals IV, Title IV of the Social Security Act, and that'll bring up the SS Social Security Act.gov, I believe it is. That takes you directly to, and that's a full breakdown of all of the grants that were allotted to the people when they first kicked this in back in the early 90s. And a lot of people tell me, they want to argue with me about child support, and they say, oh, it goes all the way back to when Mondale first set up child support in 1974, but it's not. We were not targeted at that time, and we did not have an unexpirable lien placed on us for retroactive child support. That essentially created a debtor's prison when that was passed, also known as the Bradley Amendment in 1993, I believe, is when it was passed into law. But before that, I lived on it. I was a recipient of child support in 1975 as a child. My parents split in 75, but at that time, there was not an unexpirable lien placed on that retroactive child support. And it essentially, if anybody has a brain about them, they can understand how that would drive the breadwinner out of the family or push the breadwinner out of the home, and it creates a fatherless child, or that's where the focus was initially. Again, it's dove into, it attacks all parties now. It's not a man thing, it's not a woman thing. I was in the visitation center that I mentioned I had to go to on the south side of Chicago here to see my son before I stopped that. There was a couple I met in there. The girl brought their children up to Chicago to stay with her mother over the summer. They were living over near Cleveland, Ohio, or Toledo, Ohio, somewhere in that area. But they were, they came back to pick their children up after summer. They thought they were leaving their kids under good care, with the grandmother. Well, they come back and she wouldn't answer phones. They had to go to the police, and of course the police directed them to the Department of Human Services, and she had already used that whole summer time to literally steal her own grandchildren from their mother and father. But you have to understand that they were getting, those kids had, those two grandchildren made her a lot of money in Title IV funding. So this gets used in all shapes or forms, or from all walks of life. It by no means, it's not a gender thing. It's just the way the system's set up. It's set up for the evil, really. It's been the destruction of our family structure within the United States. And when I mentioned Soros and those type of people earlier, true communist people, they knew this type of system. They used this system during World War II. The Germans came into homes in the same way, they use the fancy words, this is for the
Best interest.
Just- best interest of our child, you know, and
Yeah. So what it comes down to, Carrie, is basically the state owns the child. So if there's any discrepancy whatsoever, any kind of dispute, the judge will tend to go ahead and grant separation from the, the nuclear family. That's what it's coming down to.
I,
So you could even have like a neighbor say, hey, I saw them spanking that kid,
Yep,
and then before you know it, they got CPS over there.
yeah.
And then you gotta spend
Yeah.
all this money to hire
Sure do.
a lawyer, and if the family didn't have much money, they can't defend it.
And if you don't know any
No.
better, you answer the door, and like
Yeah.
Glenn said, you keep it even unlocked, it's over. I mean, if you don't know who you are, also,
But-
you know.
Yeah.
but too, that it's not really, to answer your question there, it's not really money a lot of times. I spent, with 2 children, I spent well over $100,000 on 2 different attorneys, or 3 different attorneys, and time in and out of court. So it's not, money's not gonna fix this system. It's, money's not gonna guarantee you that you're gonna get time with your children or normal things, because once they get their claws in and they got that Title IV funding kicked in, they don't want to let that loose. It's almost like a eagle grabbing you by the back with their claws, and they got a hold of you. This is a bird of prey. They're a system of prey. So they're not going to let go of that prey as long as they can keep extorting that Title IV funding from your kids. I tell a lot of people that these false claims and false hopes that you're going to get, somebody's going to work a miracle and get you out of this system, it's very, very seldom ever happens. A lot of times it has to be that the 2 parties come to some sort of agreement or understanding that they're not doing any good for their child or their family, they're only destroying it. You know what I mean? It's got to come to that point. And when you deal with a narcissist type of individual, these personalities, these type of people, they will not let go of that. They don't care. They don't care if that child ends up in foster care themselves. They're their own. So
Yeah, but
it's
Gary, there's I think a new solution now, and I think Glenn has got
Glenn, I was gonna ask Glenn
those
about
bar
this.
grievances now. It makes the bar attorney has to know the law. He's required to know the law, and when you bar grievance them, then it tends to change things. That's what Glenn's been doing lately. He's been getting some good results.
Yeah, I'll send you Glenn's,
There's always a lawyer.
YouTube, it's Sovereign Living all together, right?
Yeah,
On
well,
YouTube.
it's, yeah.
And then you can file bar grievances.
Because once you file that, they can't say I didn't know any better. You're giving them notice,
Right.
and they've got to know the law, and that's illegal what they're doing.
And I think we can still do that, right? Even like me and Carrie's case is long gone, but I mean, it's, our
Well,
kids are.
I think I've heard that you could still file a lawsuit, Jody, in regards to the damages, what the damages that they have caused, and we know that there's a ton of damages. There's all kind of damages, financially, emotionally. You can go right on down the line, but they. I've heard that there's people filing lawsuits now, getting them in for the quote-unquote return of our true president. There's a lot of good things that I've heard that's coming down the pipeline. It's just not somewhat happened yet, but I don't know about how to go about that. I kind of got really, I disengaged from the family courtroom because I knew after spending 28 years in that place, I wasn't getting anything done. I had to take a step back and fight in a different way, with the racing and trying to get people knowledgeable that this is happening to us. This is happening to our families.
It all comes down to jurisdiction.
Yeah, and I wanted you to touch on that.
Like when Carrie comes into court, he asks them, do you have jurisdiction? They'll say yes, and they'll ask them to prove it.
Oh, a different Carrie, and I'll send you videos, and So Carrie, now that you did that, before you go, because I think they're gonna switch, right, pretty soon,
Yeah.
or whatever.
About 7 minutes.
Tell everybody about what you're doing, because like, you know, my thing is I do the public notices and travel all over. Everyone has their little
Yeah.
thing they like to do. And like you said, you stepped back and tried to figure out a different way to get the word out, but we, both of us and everyone that's in this advocate, we want everyone to call, at least call your legislators, your reps, and complain. Why is my social security going to fund this child trafficking? And, you know, are you guys gonna be giving the jab to these children that you're taking, whether it's CPN or the narcissistic parent abducting the children? Now these kids are being forced into the jab by the narcissistic parent. And when they don't give us our kids and we have no visits with our children, we have no say-so with these children, whether they're getting the jab or not. So this is all connected. But
It's really all connected. It's totally tied. Everything that I just talked about is tied to the child trafficking industry. That's why, even though President Trump was completely disturbed by what he found out, where they were handing out abortions like lollipops at the borders when he first came into office, and then he later finds out that the Department of Human Services is literally selling baby parts to research hospitals, to it costs money, of course, to have an eyeball replaced or a limb replaced or whatever, but they were selling these baby parts like it was a meat market or something, you know? It's truly sick what they've done that on all levels of Title IV that I speak of. I mean, they were providing abortions and they called it paternity type of stuff, you know, within the Department of Human Services if you went for assistance on these type of things. But yeah, it's just sick what they've had going on. But on another note, we were talking about the racing stuff.
So tell them what you race. Tell them what kind of car your races and what you're doing that for.
I race open wheel midget, what they call midgets or sprint cars, champ cars as well, within the United States Auto Club ranks. But we race all over the country. Even racing in Australia or New Zealand as well. But we hand out pamphlets, we talk to people, we sit down and explain about a lot of this Title IV and what they've been doing, trying to advocate. That's another avenue that we've chosen to advocate across the whole country and world. This travesty that they've handed down on our families. I took a step back 5 years ago and I said, you know, at that point I had already, probably 12 years, I had been in the trenches, we call it, standing out in front of the courthouses, standing out in front of the, protesting at the state capitol in Illinois. We protested in Wisconsin and Indiana state capitals as well at the time back then. But in 2007, when I was thrown back into this, after a few years of being back into it, we decided to form Laps for Love. Trying to advocate for families, to reunite families is the main thing. That's what we race and do. We try to spread the word or help individuals, and it really set out as a case by case type of thing initially, but it's progressed into other realms. And at that time, when we first started, we were getting donations from local hotel chains or national type of hotel chains. We had a thing set up initially to where we could house a alienated parent through the program where they would be provided a free room for a night or a month or how it worked out to get them back on their feet. Because a lot of us have been completely dislocated from life and livelihood. I lost a business with 3 locations. I made the mistake of putting my son's mother, we were not married, I put her as president of my corporation. And when my son was born, she just was completely going the other direction and would not communicate at all. And that's a form that they use to literally, they're informed of that really at the Department of Human Services office. They're told that you don't communicate with the other person. Well, why? Because if you communicate, you might remove your family by yourself out of this system. You know, it's really cool and calculated what they do, right? But we are, you know, through the racing, we're using that as an avenue with the high publicity and the general population that follows racing is you know, in those child rearing years or young families. They're, you know, anywhere from 25 to 45, the predominant amount of people that are following it, and those are all single families, you know, with or single family homes with a working father and mother, or however it plays out. But they
So can
they're
if someone here wants to donate, I mean, are you still doing the sponsorships where you can put the name of their organization or something, or even their Facebook group on your car or trailer? You still doing that?
Yeah, we definitely, we welcome it big time. We really like to lock in with some people. We've got some opportunities coming up the end of this year and all of next year for some signage on the cars. Typically, if you sign on for a year and you donate, you know, just whatever amount of money you would want to donate to try to put your business or your radio show or whatever it might be, this is a golden opportunity to come in and get in with a grassroots type of organization, racing organization even that, I mean, we have a 30-foot trailer big white trailer going down the road with the race cars have all the signage on. That's the type of advertising that we offer. It's more on a national basis. Since we do compete throughout the summertime, we generally compete within about 5 to 7 states in the Midwest, any given Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night. So, but this is a large scale. It's I call it NASCAR on a not so NASCAR budget. It that best explains it. If you look at the big signage all over the stock cars or the NASCAR racing cars throughout the weekends, you can see the type of thing that we're able to offer. It's pretty large scale on a not so NASCAR budget.
So maybe what I can do is we'll find out like God Save Our Children, or I don't know if Glenn wants his on there, but should I just reach out to you and find out what sizes you've got or how we can make stickers to put on your trailer?
Yeah, I can send them a proposal, what we offer, and they can see where we got it broke down on like a gold, a silver, bronze, you know, as you go down, that's how we kind of categorize the dollar amounts that you might want to get involved in the sponsorship or the advertising for your organization. But we got some different tiers that, I mean, it just all depending on your budget and how much you want to donate. It helps us get to the events throughout the year. It helps us get your word out there, get your business advertised, get it. You know, it's a neat package because at the same time, you're sponsoring and helping us make these events. You're helping us get in front of thousands upon thousands of fans on a yearly basis, and we're able to hand out our pamphlets. we can hand out your pamphlets, we can hand out your advertising information at all the events, and that's you can be mentioned in the racing programs. It's so multi-tiered when it comes to these racing events that Jody and I were talking about doing the state fair events over there in Iowa the last couple of years. We don't have any races there right in that area during the summertime, but we were talking about doing that, which would still be a great event, to make. But
Yeah.
car shows. We did some street, some cruise nights a couple years. Last year or the year before, 2019, we did a huge cruise night in Whiting, Indiana. It's a little community that sits on the border of Chicago, basically, but they have always had a 50s cruise night that's huge. I mean, it covers like 5 miles or so that they cruise up and down this main city street, and we had the car parked on the side of the during the cruise night, of course, and handing pamphlets out, letting everybody know that we're out there, that we're out there to help, that's what we want to do.
Blanca's here, and she's got a coalition called God Save Our Children. And so I was wondering about like even hashtags. What about that? You think you could do a sponsorship for that, or where people could find their Facebook group and all that on race cars and stuff? Okay. What do you think? You want to give me prices on something like that down the road? Blanca, he's got a race car. He does races, and he's got a trailer, and he's using it as a rolling billboard. Right, so we can get the word out, and you just give a sponsorship amount, like a donation to him, and it helps him get out there and spread the word. And he can take your leaflets and pass out as well. Okay, at the same time. So, all right.
You want to see if anybody has any questions?
Does anyone want to ask him about Title
You
IV?
just lost your connection.
I think you lost it.
Oh,
Whoops. Here, redial.
shoot. I think he's driving. He might be driving. So, just so it's on here. So it's Laps for Love. So if you go to the Facebook, you'll see Carrie Speedman or Laps for Love Racing. And, that's where you can find us. Carrie with the K, K-E-R-R-Y, and then Speedman, all together, Speedman.
I'm going to make some announcements too.
Okay.
We got some great speakers coming up too that I want y'all to know about. Next week we're going to have Don Hoffman's son. Bill, what's his name again?
Terrence.
Terrence will be speaking with us next Tuesday.
And
then
Kelly
we have, who else?
No, we have Kelly Burke.
Kelly Burke coming, and then
Dana Wren, a nurse. She was a cardiac nurse, a surgical nurse, and a school nurse. She's going to talk about the injection.
yeah, and what we can do to prevent it, and really what the true word is on what's going on with the vaccination. And then Kelly Burke ran for mayor of Arlington. He's going to be with us to talk about what we should be doing in politics and so forth. So we look forward to next week, and we're going to start again 11 o'clock next Tuesday.
Okay, wait, let's because I want him to put this on. You got time?
Huh?
Give me 5 seconds. Okay, because I want you to put this with my name, so it is. All right, so this is for Iowa, or anyone that wants to go. So Parental Alienation Awareness Iowa, we have been doing this for 3 years in a row. We go to the Iowa State Fair Parade. If you've got a group of people that want to join, there's people that come from Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska, Texas, all over this, every state. All people come to the Iowa State Fair. It's the best fair in the nation. And I'm biased, but it is the best one. It's what state fair the show is made out of. Well, I don't want to answer that. Tell me, call back.
Hey, Karen, we're wrapping things up.
So you can educate 50,000 people, 50,000 spectators are sitting off to the side. So I am going down the street, I'm on a megaphone, I've got water in one hand, megaphone in the other. Anyone that wants to join us, I don't care if it's parental alienation like my case, where your children were taken,
Appreciate that.
turned against you, whatever, or if you've got a CPS case. We've got, it's called Iowa, let's see, it's a CPS, I'm trying to think of the name of it. CPS group in Iowa. Sorry, I can't think of the name right now. But there's two of us that join up together. So if you want to come and you're close by, Cindy, I think, is going with me from Texas. And we just drive through there. We need riders that want to wave and hold up posters. We decorate our vehicles in royal blue or lime green. That's parental alienation colors. So if you got balloons, you can attach to vehicles, whatever, streamers, posters, name the judges. We name the judges that take the children through CPS or family court. We put the number of the governor out there because we want the people in the audience to be calling the governor and harass them. And you can put pictures of your children out there saying, you know, missing children because of, you know, family court, because of CPS. And I've had people that run out in the middle of the street asking for business cards. I've got women and men that come out there bawling, but they joined my group because of it. We walk with the banner, so I need people that will hold the 6-foot banner in front of my vehicle. And then, you know, you're just going down there, it's about 1.5 miles, I think, downtown Des Moines. I don't have the location for where we're parked, but anyone can find me. Jody Mueller, 65@gmail is my email if you want to participate. I just ask that you try to wear royal blue or lime green so we stand out really well because we are on the PBS channel 11 that's there. So hopefully we'll be, they've announced us twice out of 3 years, so we're hoping we can announce it. And I'll let people know where we're parked and hopefully we can get more people. Last year we had like 35. Thank you.
Spell out your email address.
Oh, email is JODIMUELLER65@gmail.com.